Hello, lovely people. Welcome to another episode of the Living in Fullness podcast. You are tuning into the CEO's Corner, a place where we bring you trailblazing leaders in various spaces and in different forms. I'm excited today because we've got a CEO who's joining us, and his name is Bulelani Balabala. I'm sure some of you already know him. He is a speaker, so we're in for a treat today. Okay, and he's somebody who gets things done. So he does have a book that he wrote for us, an entrepreneurship guide that is named Get Things Done. And I'm excited to get into it today. What is it about and what does it help township entrepreneurs with as well? And he is a distinguished township entrepreneur. Someone that you don't really find. I haven't seen people that do that quite a lot. So I'm really excited to know about the journey, what inspired it and why I decided to do that. And of course, he is a speaker, a global speaker. So help me in welcoming Bulelani Balabala.
Oh, wow.
Welcome to Living in Fullness with Naki.
This is CEO's Corner, where strategy meets story, and we meet the human behind the title.
I am your host, Naki Tlumai Muteto.
Real leaders, real stories, real impact.
Hi.
Thank you so much, man. What a beautiful intro.
No, I didn't even do much to it. So I'm excited for you to tell us more about yourself. But thank you for coming. How are you?
Thank you. No, man, I'm very good. I'm very excited, actually.
Yeah.
Beautiful space. Super excited to be on the podcast. Thank you so much. Yeah.
Thank you for making it. I've been looking forward to our episode, so I cannot wait to get a lot out of you today. And I'm very sure that my guests will also benefit from having you on. But we're going to start with the icebreakers.
Yes.
Are you ready?
I'm ready.
Quick responses. 3 principles that you live by.
Integrity, creativity, and hard work.
Nice. Okay. That speaks into the work that you do. What are the 3 things one must be okay with losing for growth to take place?
Sure. Pleasures, comfortable spaces, and what you think you know.
Oh, that's an interesting one. What do you mean by that? I think that I
think a lot of the things that keep us from growing is, I know it's supposed to happen this way. And I think a lot of the things that I've had to, or rather I've achieved, is because I heard the strong, amazing voice, and I guess God's voice saying, go that way. Where my logic said, but everything says this way.
Points the other direction.
But also just apart from that, just, open yourself up to disrupt yourself so that you can learn new things and learn new concepts.
I love that. And you can't grow without adaptability, right?
No, you can't, man. I mean, the world is ever changing. The talks of AI, but I think when you sort of think of disrupting yourself, one sort of should be thinking and iterating what is the next thing so that I can kind of prepare for it, kind of position myself for it.
Right. I love it. Okay. Who are the 3 people who have shaped you mostly?
I'll definitely tell you who they are. I was with them early this morning, my sons.
Aww.
I've got a 9-year-old and a 5-year-old. I know they are shaping me every single day. I think definitely my team at the office, very vibrant team. I mean, majority of our team is women, very hardworking, very sharp individuals. And I think just for me, most importantly, the community I do work in,
right?
They shape and they sharpen me. Yeah,
I love it. And what are the first 3 things you tend to spend on when money comes in?
Sure. The first 3 things. I mean, I pay my tithes.
Nice.
My sons definitely chow a bit of that money. And then, sure. I mean, I love art and deco, so I normally buy stuff and I hoard them away up until I have my ultimate dream space. That's how I...
Really? You actually buy it without the space?
Literally, I've got this ideal space in mind, so I buy them for that future space,
Interesting. Are you a visionary leader?
I'd love to think so, right? Because I guess... I always say to the team, we're not building for now.
Right.
We're building for where we are going. So some of the things that we're doing now won't make any sense, or rather full-on sense, right? But I guess, if we're building for where we are going, we need to then do the stress test of what are all the things that we need to do. And then the moment we understand those things, it's almost that's where we want to go, building backwards so that we can then start to move forward.
I love it. And it means you've got a long-term mindset. It's not short-sighted.
Important. I mean, I think, and I think it sort of will unravel itself as we talk more about the work that I do. But I think for me, in every single thing that I've done, I've always said, if you only do what you get paid for, then you'll only receive what you've done, which is in line with those KPIs.
Absolutely.
And the only way to disrupt your earning capabilities really for me is do more than what you get paid for. Because you must remember that when you over deliver on KPIs, it auditions you for big opportunities, meaning that I can charge and bill more.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Because I was able to do more.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I love it. Which leads me to my next question. Impact, influence, or fame? Pick one.
Man, I love impact.
Yeah.
I think for me, the impact has been a very important thing for me. Not really interested in fame, not really. But you know what I've realized is that in most cases, because of the impactful work that you do, influence sort of latches itself on. But I think it's then important, I think for me, you know, in explaining this, to then say what I've had to learn over the years is that we're solely focused on impact. And not really interested in the corner conversations. But I think then we've had to learn over the years that uniqueness in and itself has an expiry date, right? Because if someone else comes with a similar story and makes a loud noise, it confuses the market to think that they are also par to par. So I think for me, it's always been to say balancing impact, which is work that you're passionate about. This is meaningful work, with making a loud noise around it so that you are known as an influential person in that specific corner, doing that meaningful work. And what that then does is that it fans away the people that are not doing that work for the right reasons, and you are able to then segment yourself in that market where that's crowded before it gets crowded, but so that they're able to sift you out very early.
I love that honest response because you most times we just say impact, you know, I don't care about influence, for fame, but I like the fact that you're saying you also do need some influence.
That's important.
You also need to make that noise because other people that are bringing counterfeits will make noise.
No, it's true.
So you want to be able to make that noise for people to get to know you. But lastly, what kind of leader are you and how do you think that has evolved over the years?
Sure. Kind of a leader am I? I'll tell you. I think in the office, they'll definitely tell you I'm tough. I think the newer team will probably tell you I'm tough. Because I used to be tougher. But I think that's purely because, and there have been iterations over the years, right? That's purely because the toughness didn't just come because you wanted people to deliver on the work. It came because there were stereotypes. I mean, I started my business in the township, and I remember one vivid day, one of the guys who worked for me was outside doing some stuff, and the lady in his life drove by and asked him, "Is this where you said you worked when you said you had a job?" And she laughed at him. Said, "This is not a job. You know, your house is the next street." And there's been a number of those type of instances. So I think for me, the toughness comes from let's over deliver. So that, you know, we really prove the stereotypes wrong. And in most cases, it's been batting against the currency. And whereas it would have been easier from a credibility perspective to set your business in a location that already had prestige and credibility. But now we're saying to all these brands, come to us in this corner in the township, and we'll deliver, and we'll make sure that we deliver well. So that for me has always been, I think, the iterations. But then over the years, and I think quite recently, I think for me, recent being this year, January, I've had to learn that you need a level of softness to bring people along for the journey. That sometimes my toughness is as a result of how I grew up and how I grew the business, that we had to force certain things, but to be able to bring in a variable not a variable number, but I think a variation of different pools of people to come bring their talents into the team, then they need to bring themselves, and themselves is not you. So they don't need to be tough like me. So that's one of the things that I've been learning this year. Very interesting learning. Because sometimes you think that your way is the way of doing things. So I'm learning that my way is actually not the way of doing things. There are other people that have got better ways of doing things.
And I told you guys we're in for a treat. But, you know, I like the fact that you're speaking about having a diverse team. And I do understand the toughness because you are the one who carries the vision. You know why you started it. You know where you want to see the organization going, the kind of impact that it brings to the community. And sometimes if you're bringing on people, you want to make sure that those people see and understand your vision. So sometimes it's quite difficult to delegate and let go when you are the one who carries the vision. You know what I'm saying? So it makes it very difficult because you're saying, do you actually understand where I want this to go? So I do hear you.
No, definitely. And I think, a mentor of mine calls it, says you delegate but never derelict. So it's important to delegate, but dereliction is, it's a legal term, but really talks to the fact that it's your fiduciary responsibility to govern over the business.
Right.
And then I think he sort of brings that conversation in the early days of my entrepreneurship where I'm starting to peak and he sees me everywhere. And then Nabs sits me down and says, do not be a public success, but a private failure. Watch yourself, because being in places sometimes strokes your egos, but doesn't cause the impact that it needs to then cause. So I think for me, those are some of the things that helped in reeling me in so that I always operate within the guides of the business. But I think for me, to the context of the conversation, it's obviously in the initial stages, it's difficult to let go because you feel and that it's your baby. But I think some of the ways to build competencies was being able to write down process steps, taking time for people, and then walking the journey with them. And then over time, they then run by themselves, and then you all iterate those processes, right?
Yeah.
But you never, ever get to the point where no entrepreneur or business owner or CEO should never get to the point where you're completely on flight mode and you don't even check if the black box or the radar's working in that airplane that you're flying. It's important for you to consistently check in.
I like that.
Yeah.
And we're already getting into so much of it, but maybe for people that don't know you, what do you actually do?
Sure. I think maybe let me start by saying what I think I am. Okay. I'm someone who's very passionate about entrepreneurship. I'm someone who's very passionate about the township economy and township entrepreneurship. That's first and foremost. And I think because of that, my entrepreneurial journey started 21 years ago. In my mother's house at the time, Busethembisa, a township in Gauteng, in South Africa. And out of that, the first 2 years were informal, right? Where I was selling, this is what, 2004? Yeah, 2004.
Yeah.
I was selling amagwenya, doing odd things and sweets and all that stuff. Didn't really consider it work or entrepreneurship at all. I just thought I was just doing stuff. 2006, formally, we registered the business on the 16th of August. Started doing odd things, trying to navigate that business. The business name is Intercessor Army Franchising. So that company's been running for 19 years solid as a formal entity. We grew that business from an internet cafe to print brokerage business. From print brokerage, we're able to procure our own machinery and equipment. Then developed our printing wing from that, added CNC routing, laser cutting, and a number of others. Then really grew that business. And I think about 3 years ago, a few years ago, we decided to sell the client book, sell some of the machines, because I felt like it was time to jump in. We had built something that was solid, but it was a difficult decision to sort of make. But out of that was birth this other business that I run called Township Entrepreneurs Agency. And out of there, we provide large corporates with support, go-to-market strategies in townships, nationwide and rural communities, research and insights, as well as implementing special projects, enterprise development or marketing in townships nationwide. And I also then am the founder of Township Entrepreneurs Alliance, which has been able to directly impact over 100,000 township entrepreneurs nationwide.
Wow.
We've done work in a third of the country's townships, every major townships, all 9 provinces. But I guess for me, it's passion work. And that at the initial stages was funded by my manufacturing business.
Right.
And I love that because what it did is that it kept the work pure because the work was not about money. So now you can sit, in a room with a large corporate and say, is it going to impact people or is it just another sales drive? Right. And I've got no hate for sales. In actual fact, I'm a big advocate for sales, but we need to be meaningful because of the baseline, because of the large part of your income or earnings is contributed by the disproportionate parts of South Africa, or the people who live in township and rural economies. Right. It means that when you go in, you don't go in to take, you must go in to give so that you build trust over time. And then after that, you can say, because of all that I've done, could you potentially consider using us as a preferred service provider?
I love that. So how do you then find the balance between impact and business growth? Because I mean, most businesses are there to make profits, right? And it's more sustainable that way. So how do you find that balance between business growth, making profits, and impact?
I mean, I think for me, I think it goes without saying. I mean, I'm a social entrepreneur, as I'm called, but I mean, I started as being a full-on capitalist because the first thing I needed to do is to dig myself out of a hole, dig my family out of a hole. And that meant that our focus in that particular business was ferociously, how does one breathe? How does one build sustenance and food on the table? And then a consistent income. Then out of that, I guess, came the passion work. And I think when you ask that particular question, I'd like to answer it in the context of the work that we primarily do with tea. The balance for me has always been the fact that we started, and it was all funded by us, or rather funded by me, helped me to really spend time building it in the way that I wanted it to be. Not necessarily as my own novel product, but to hear what all these micro enterprises actually wanted. Do we do everything that they wanted? No, we don't, right? Because we are navigating, I guess, within the constructs of the resources that we have. But I think the balance for me has always been to ask myself, number one, we've had to be creative to answer the question directly. We've had to be creative. Number two, we've had to ask ourselves, where are the low-hanging fruits? Where are the low-hanging fruit opportunities in whatever program that we're running? I mean, if there's a set aside and it's 1,000 Rand for a specific project that needs to be done nationwide, if there's not a lot of fat to skin off, then the question is, could we find local suppliers wherever we go? What's it going to cost us? Then the team responds, it's going to take us, it's going to be a lot of hard work. Then hard work is something that we can pay for, right? And put the energy and effort into being intentional. And what we found is that being that intentional is actually reciprocated itself, because the communities that we can move into any time of day, and we've really built the trust in and amongst the people. Why? Because we're intentional with those individuals and that journey. So I think for me, that has been the balance. But if I think from a commercial perspective, when a corporate comes in and wants to do work, I think we've got a clear view in terms of things that we will and we will not do. And I think for me, where it breaks some of the codes and it's not meaningful, it's not impactful, then we won't participate. And I say this not with a lot of joy, because sometimes you actually want the resources in so that you can scale the work that you're doing. But if it's going to be expensive help, then it's not help that one needs.
There's no point. And I mean, you mentioned your family in the beginning. One thing that I always think is very important when people share their journeys, especially CEOs like yourself, is their childhood and it's actually shaping the person that we see today. How do you think your childhood shaped you? And you come across as a firstborn? Am I wrong?
No, I'm a last born, actually. I had to grow up really hard.
No way.
No benefits of last born. No benefits.
You do not seem like a last born at all. The title,
but not. Because you know what? I mean, my highest grade is grade 9. Then I was taken out of high school to an FET college, because the minimum in an FET college, for the benefit of our audience, is further education and training. And I was taken there because the minimum entrance was grade 9, but the logic was my mother's being rechanged. So if we take you there, at least you won't just finish high school with a matric. Maybe you might get some sort of a technical skill or a trade and start working somewhere whatsoever. But lo and behold, the money ran dry. I mean, I did the NCOR course, I did N1, I did N2, I think somewhere into N3, the money ran dry, and the sort. And I think for me, I mean, when I think about that, and I guess my childhood, there's been so many experiences that have happened where in that moment it doesn't seem like there's anything good that's going to come out of it. And all of those, I think, tough moments and experiences only make sense now that I had to take that journey. I mean, I think I'll tell you about one. I mean, my mother would cook pap and let it simmer overnight. The morning when I'd get my lunch tin and go to work, it was gravy and pap. Not the most favorable lunch, purely because of how many times you keep having it. But what she had done is she had sliced up the pap and as if it was slices of bread.
Oh.
And when I'd eat it, lunchtime, I'd eat it at the back of the, I think at the back of the, not the media center, I mean, it was called a computer room at the time. And I'd eat there away from everybody else. On one fateful day, a few of my classmates found me. They snatched my lunch in to see what was inside. I was embarrassed.
No
They were
way.
excited because their mothers always make them ham and cheese and they wanted pap and gravy. I was like, I'll trade you any day. They're like, we want some of that. But, you know, in that moment, when I think about that, and there've been so many others, moments that were plagued by iniquity, moments that were plagued by you can't afford and you stand out. It makes sense why one had to take that journey, because in life, I would have to then take the scenic route. So when you make the comment around being firstborn or not, I mean, I'm a lastborn, we had to grow up very quickly because there was no other solution. I'm raised by a single mother. I don't necessarily like that term. I'm raised by a superwoman who raised two boys, me and my older brother, 14-year gap, and to be really responsible men. So, and I think I'd like to think of myself to a degree as a very responsible person in that particular respect. But, you know, my background and upbringing doesn't really differ much from a majority of South Africa's upbringing. I mean, it's not a glamorous one. It's one marked by a lot of hard work, a lot of time and a lot of dedication, and really just devoting yourself to growth.
Oh, that's interesting. And I think, yeah, your story is definitely, I was like, I need tissue. I mean, as you're saying, right, it's not different to a lot of South African people. But I think when people see you now in the kind of work you do, people don't actually understand your background and where you come from. The only time you can probably think about it is, oh, you went into townships. There's probably a link between why, you know, your why. And I don't know if your why has changed to like from when you started to now, but I'm assuming that's why you went into Township Entrepreneurship. And the name is unique. And I think it's definitely something that you can't miss. So when I saw Township Entrepreneurship, I was like, what does this actually mean? I mean, I know what a township is. I know what an entrepreneur is. But why did you go with the name Township Entrepreneurship?
I mean, I'll tell you why. And I love every time I get this question, because sometimes the opposite of that question is, why not just entrepreneurship?
Right.
Because aren't you, for you, fact that you guys are segmenting yourselves out to the market, aren't you guys making yourself special? And I'd say to them that, I mean, at the time, the big driver for the name was because of the understanding of a number of things. Was because of the fact that the infrastructural frustrations that were faced by townships, specifically township entrepreneurs, the lack of access to basic things like data. I mean, at some point, I'll make an example of my business. At some point, we had paid one of the largest courier companies in the country. I think they and how they worked is you paid an amount in advance and they gave you what they called stickers and labels for the different regions in the country. So if you want your stuff delivered in Pretoria, it was a blue region. You buy those stickers. And what you do is that when you have a parcel, you box it, you stick it, you call them, they need to come pick up. They would never come pick up the parcels. We had to get a driver or get ourselves in a car and go meet them in some random corner in the middle of Kempton Park in the CBD. So when you then think about those nuances, it then tells you that, you know, the journey of an entrepreneur who grew up in the township is totally different or even tougher from the one who is in Rosebank, and tougher from an infrastructural perspective. I need to say that. But in no means do, when we say township entrepreneur, do we say cheap, lazy, give them a break. No, treat them the hardest, because you'll find that they will actually give you the hardest or the best of themselves, the best of quality. And I always say to the team, we are not building, and I'd say it in slang, achashem. And what that would mean is that we're not building side businesses or by the way, we're building guys we are working with guys who want to build themselves into tough and robust business owners so that they're able to show up into the market effectively. Why? Because there's a level of the market that you grow into where there's no township, there's no entrepreneur, there's no small, you have to deliver. The language is delivery, so you can't now hide behind Township. And we don't teach
and I don't have resources.
We don't teach any of the guys that. We say that when you get an opportunity to deliver and don't make any excuses about where you come from. Because we'll shine a spotlight about where you guys are in the communities that we come from, so that we can drive more help our way, so that there can be a lot of foot traffic and activity. But once it's there, don't make excuses. Show up and make sure that you deliver effectively.
Right. And I think I like that. I mean, you've been recognized and awarded for empowerment, right? For townships and rural areas for entrepreneurship. But what does empowerment then look like? It's basically what you're speaking about now. But then when it comes to resources, right, it's definitely a stumbling block for a lot of entrepreneurs in townships and rural areas. So how then do you move people from that mindset of, well, I don't have it? Right? So I can't do much. This is where I end. This is where I stop. So how do you change that mindset? Because I think sometimes people, as much as you can try to empower people, when that mindset is there, it makes it very difficult for them to move ahead, because they're always, for lack of a better word, they feel entitled to where they're at, because I've never had resources anyway.
Yeah.
So how do you change that mindset?
I think for me, some of the first couple of things we had to do is I had to understand something, that we can't fix problems at the same level that they are created on. So which would mean a couple of things, that even the environment in which we're bringing in the learning, which are within these townships where the individuals have felt the most pain, depression, frustration, lack, and even loss. We can't come into those communities and only bring literature. Right. We need to come into those communities, and even if it's a group of 5 or 6 or a small tin space, change the look and feel on that space, so that they're able to then psychosomatically shift. There's a psychosomatic shift in their minds to, it's a new space, it's a new environment. I might be open up to learning new concepts and new ideologies. And I sort of learned this much earlier on when I would attend workshops or roadshows that happened in community halls. You walked in and it was a government event and there was dirty floors, the chairs not properly plugged, the facilitator almost seemed like they didn't know what they were doing, and no effort put into it. And then I contrast that to going to the CTICC or the Sandton Convention Center, and everything looks prim, proper. And you might find that facilitator might have even shared the best content, but because of the environment, I was already blocked off from receiving what they wanted to say. So the first couple of things for us was to say, let us make it look better than anything they've ever seen. And number two, let us make sure that the experience is an experience that you would have paid for had it been anywhere else. That's the most important thing. So I think when you take that into context, means that now it becomes palatable for you to bring information. And I guess our measurement of the type of information that we share with these entrepreneurs to help them unlock their minds is we've had to understand a couple of things. You don't know what you don't know what you don't know, and if you don't know that, it will impact the growth of your business because you don't know anything. So knowing that means that we needed to do two things: make the information simple and practical for you to be able to apply. What does that mean? It means that it needs to answer two things. How does it make them money? How does it save them money? The moment we're able to optimize our learning to do two things, guess what? Then it became practical. Then the social media workshop that we put you in, it is not a pie in the sky. We then say majority of you guys use Androids as an assumption. So if that's an assumption, let's take the space and use WhatsApp. What are the basic tools that we need to strip off that you are able to apply immediately now? Information for now. And then what we then do is that when we then segment the content, and saying information for now must take up 40%. Information for later must take up 30%. And the last 30% must be them being actually practical with the tool that they would have learned. That way you're able to balance the stuff and bring the entrepreneurs along for the journey. And I think that's that. And I think consistently demonstrating to them with not even just myself, because I'm growing to the point where they might even feel like what you were saying now. The ones who don't know me might even feel like, he was just dropped. So which is why then it's important for us to consistently demonstrate with other peers in their same community what we are consistently talking to them about.
And I love that. That's a great business model. And I like the fact that you're not taking the township into the city. You're still doing township stuff and you still take care of them. I think even when you mentioned to me that your studio is in the township, right? The whole idea is to not take the township out of them, but to make them realize that we can advance where we're at and be able to grow from where we're at. And I think that makes it easier, and it makes them relatable as well to what's happening around them. It just makes the conversations even much easier. But I see you mentioning computers, or do you use data analytics or even just data, AI, technology in the kind of work that you guys do?
We definitely do. I think my love for computers started, obviously, one of the businesses I ran for the longest was an internet cafe.
Right.
Pentium 1 computers, but the majority of our audience might not even know. But I had a Pentium 1 computer given to me by my brother. And I guess there was this deep love and passion for wanting to take this thing, unbox it and strip it. But I guess in the work that we do, definitely, I mean, technology is a deep driver.
Yeah.
For us, number one, for a couple of things. For us, number one, to be able to draw up baseline assessments to understand who is in the room. What are their actual challenges?
Right.
Number one. Number two, what are the socioeconomic challenges faced by people within that space? So that we don't take the ignorant stance to say that they're ungrateful, they are lazy, they didn't show up. But you might find that they didn't have electricity to bath, or didn't have water for them to be able to bath and show up. And the water would only come at 1 p.m. and that's the only time they would have the confidence to show up to a formal setting with other people there. So I think for me, understanding those nuances helps you to understand deeper what is going on. But you can't do that in an analog format, in the traditional format. You need to do that in a digitized format so that it's easier. And then what we've had to then bridge is we've had to then bridge the gap that says, I know the platform, but do they know? If they don't, which platform can help as an intermediary between the way we would then break down the data and the analytics and the way that they would then bring in the input so that it's not cumbersome to them. But then, even if it's a little bit of work for us to then translate that and clean up that data, we do that. So I would then talk to, my data analyst at the office, and she would always say, oh man, the data sets need to be cleaned up, need to be changed this way. Can't we change the inputs on the other side? No, you can't change the inputs because it's going to be cumbersome for the person. If it's difficult for us, it's not a problem. I'm like, what's it going to cost you? Nah, maybe 2 more nights. I'm like, please, can you do it then? Please. And I think that what I found is that then tells a better story. But what that also then helps us with, then helps us to paint a colorful and detailed picture to someone who doesn't come from the township, to someone who was born in the township but is an executive and they no longer go there apart from going to visit family, for them to now understand what is actually happening now. Because what you then find is that there are people who are in spaces of authority and power in corporate or government and actually genuinely want to help, but they are misinformed about what the actual need is. So I think then it's then important for us to then translate that need in an effective manner by utilizing technology. So we utilize analytics, your Power BI, we utilize AI as well as a tool. And I think we're actually also now building up a marketplace because we found that it's a necessity. And I think majority of the things that I've built them up on the backdrop of months and years of debate saying, why build something that's already there? Up until we get to a point that says the people actually need it because of various things, so that we're able to then bring them along for the journey. But technology is a disruptor. And I'll make an example. There's an entrepreneur we worked with from Orange Farm. He's got 2 donkeys on a cart and he does a couple of things. In the morning, he delivers coal. In the afternoon or in between gaps, he collects rubble, he collects old bins, and not old bins, but bins that are full and throws away trash. And his biggest challenge and frustration was the community that operates in there. One of the side of Orange Farm still has gravel road and they're not tarred out. The street signs are not properly labeled. There are no street names. So how does it get to his customers? A simple technological innovation that a lot of savvy people might even overlook.
Not thought about
WhatsApp locations. But he doesn't know that.
He doesn't.
So that's why I always say to the guys, as we move fast or the world moves quick, let us always remember where we are as a country and the work, the places where we want to bring the impact and support. That if I come and I'm talking about generative AI and I'm talking about LLMs to people that don't even know how to navigate sending
the smaller
basic
things,
pins, then I lose that market completely. So I always say, let us scale the way in which we then drive that information. But technology, number one, becomes a disruptor and can be a community disruptor if we bring the community along for the journey.
Absolutely. I love that. And do you have competitors? I haven't seen anyone who does what you do.
No, man, there's not a lot, actually. I was about to say, there's quite a few people who do. I mean, you've got guys like Gigi Alcock, who doesn't necessarily do the work within the space, but advocates. You've got guys that primarily focus on youth, like Empower Works. They do amazing work within that particular space, not necessarily their focus space. So we only do work in townships and rural communities, nowhere else.
Yeah,
and we've been
there's a proper niche.
Yeah,
and
and we've been very clear on that.
Yeah.
And then the question is, could we not do the work elsewhere? We could, but we choose not to because we are focused. We wanted to, and we still want to streamline ourselves within the markets, but definitely to the capacity, the frequency, and the friction that we have, no one does it to date to that. But I guess for me, and that's not necessarily for me a point of celebration, because I always think about that, and then I think about the fact that there's over 1.6 to about 3 million informal businesses, and how we've only done less than 1% in terms of direct impact, and how much great would it be for more impact to be done. So whenever I see work being done in townships, various programs, I get very excited.
Yeah.
But then at the back of that excitement, my deep hope is I hope it's meaningful. I hope it's not extractive. But I'm very excited because the more and more there's noise and activity, guess what? A lot more brands, a lot more people gain the trust to want to go there and procure goods, to want to go there and access services, to want to go there to live and entertain themselves.
True.
But most importantly, money then starts to circulate within that economy and market. Yeah, and that's what excites me the most. Yeah,
that's a good way of looking at it. It really shows a lot about. It's not about you when you do the business, the kind of business that you do. For you, it's really the impact, because most people would really celebrate the fact that there is no competitors. But what are some of the challenges you've faced with this setting up this type of business, running this type of business, and have you ever felt like giving up at any point?
Sure, man. Yo, too many challenges because no one township is the same.
Yeah.
No one township. So no one township is the same is broken up into two for me.
Yeah.
It's not the same comparative to another. It's not the same comparative to the various sections in it. So I could be in Soweto, but the way the people Basamfulo operate is different from the ones in DK. The ones in DK operate from the ones, I'm thinking in Dube. And I think being able to understand that gives you the ability and the credence for you to then operate from a place of trust and build credibility. Right. But you can't do that without having humility. And I found that every space that I've gone into, there are no titles. The titles fall away because you need to enter them with a deep sense of humility, so that you're able to navigate those spaces, because you don't navigate them by titles. You navigate them by trust. So which then means that when we've experienced, and I've experienced, and from being pointed at with guns for doing impact work, there's been so many challenges, but I think what has got us going over the years has really just been the passion. So because of that passion, the question is not how do I avoid the stress? It's how do I play around the stress of it so that it allows us to continue going. So the conversation is never, are we going there or not? The conversation is, we are going there, but how do we go there impactfully and responsibly? Right. So that the team is not in danger. The people that are there are going to be meaningful and impacted. And then we then understand what are the power centers so that we make them understand that we're not coming here extractively, that we know what, because in most cases, what you then find is, the reason why going in there with a sense of humility is important is that majority of the people that have fought us in the past and who have fought us in these communities have fought us, and once you have calmed them down, their immediate response is, we are angry, we are frustrated. We are frustrated because we have been taken advantage of by many other people who have come in the past. Yes, they came as well and they promised us things and they never delivered. Once they got paid, they left and they never came back. And we said to them, we are not those people. And the moment you start to unpack to them what we do and how we do it and bring them along for the journey, they now start to open up. So you see now the biggest challenge that now in the work that we do, we are paying for the sins of other people out there, even government departments that they didn't do the work that they were supposed to do in the effective manner that they needed to do it.
So trust was lost.
So trust was lost, and trust continues to be lost. We did work now in Linyanya and Khalishiwe, and you could pick up deep-seated sense of that, not even just picking up, it came at you directly. But you in that space, you have to do it with humility. Why? Because arrogance says they are crazy. Why are they being violent? Or why are they antagonistic? Why are they doing all? No. But now we understand to ask a deep question. Why are they being like that? So operating from a place of humility helps us to then operate that spaces. Because the backdrop of it is to say, guys, let's just not do this work here. Let's do it in established spaces with established infrastructure.
I mean, because it's the easier way out.
Where it's going to be the easier way out.
Yeah.
But that was not the route that we choose to then take.
And I mean, you're obviously leaving a legacy here. And I think what interests me is how then are you building your business, or what processes have you put in place for the business to be able to run without you, right? Because I mean, people now know you are a brand on your own. And when people hear that you are there, then they trust the process.
Yeah.
But how are you setting up the business to be in a state where it can run on its own without you?
I think quite interestingly enough, I love that question because one of the fundamentals of entrepreneurship, and I guess as the CEO of this company, has always been to understand a couple of things, right? That I think there's one placard that I used to have on my office wall, now I have in my head. And it's asking myself, what am I doing to stand in the way of the growth of my business? Because sometimes we think that the blockages are always external, but we never think of ourselves as a blockage. So I think being able to ask myself that puts me in a position where even when I interact with the team, how do we disrupt? And as a result, we've had to put certain measures in place. Like some of the people who come to these workshops don't even know who I am. It's only probably tomorrow, the next day or a week or 2 weeks later, someone will say, oh, it was you who was there.
Now I know it's
And then
you.
they'd say, but why were you just walking around, picking up chairs, doing whatever? I was like, but I'm on the job. So I think for me that was important, so that it's not a product that is wholly centered around a person. And I always say to the team, remember one thing, the work that we do is the work that the business does, the work that T does. And then there's the work that I do where I scream and I shout at people on Sunday evenings and tell them refuse to start the new week without a plan, that they don't like me, some like me about it. And I'm like to them, remember, that is me making a noise, but let not the work that we do be centered around an individual, lest we then dilute the work that we do because it's way bigger than me. But I think the biggest winner for me, and it's a constant win now because we're growing the team exponentially, has been, number one, putting systems in place. That's the first thing, and iterating those systems. It's not an easy, any entrepreneur who's grown a business will tell you systemizing your business is not an easy thing to do because it never ends. Because at the advent of new machines or new staff members, as the team grows, as new orders come in or POs or whatsoever to deliver on more work, is the more complex the business becomes. But I guess at the heart of it is to keep the system simple so that they're able to, number one, are they relevant for this moment in time? Are they still simple for a 9-year-old or a 10-year-old? If they were off school and had to walk into the office and you had to say to them, come and help us today, would the processes be simplified to a 10-year-old? If they're not, they're too complex. That's what I always tell the team. And then by that measure, we then utilize what has helped us as well, is there to be able to then utilize cloud-based storage to their servers as well, so that we're able to access the business from almost anywhere. And what that does is that it gives us the deep sense of agility, in responding to the ever-changing need or the requirements of the business in that particular moment in time. But I think the big thing for me is that, but it's not a question that we have completely answered in the business. It's one that we continue to answer as we move along.
Yeah. Okay. And I know I'm checking the time now. I love the fact that you do have processes in place. I think one of the things that's very important is for the kind of business you do, like I was saying, you want a legacy and you want it to continue with or without you. You also want to get to a point where even as an entrepreneur, you can rest, and the business doesn't stop, right? So just in closing as well, what are some of the or misconceptions that people have about entrepreneurship that you think you've learned throughout that you want to advise some people that want to get into entrepreneurship?
Sure, man. I love that question. Anyone out there who's interested in getting into entrepreneurship, I'll tell you a couple of things. Know this one thing. We start businesses according to the level of our education or the level of our network and of exposure. If you don't have the money to travel and experience new places and you're confined to a certain space, find things to do. And finding those things to do sometimes means volunteering your time.
Right.
Find someone who's got books and borrow them and read them and faithfully take them back. Why? Because another form of you expanding your horizons and expanding your capacity is for you to expand yourself through literature so that you are able to understand new concepts and ideologies that will then later inform the type of business that you start. The second thing really that I'd love to share with them is to say, entrepreneurship is tough. Yeah. Entrepreneurship is hard. The reason why I start with that, and the reason why I share it in that perspective is that so that you then operate on a zero base of toughness and you understand that there might be pleasures, but there will definitely be guaranteed a lot of hard work so that you don't go into it thinking about, a big SUV or a big sedan or a big corner office with a view. And it doesn't mean that you won't attain it, but it means that even when you attain it, you will carry a deep sense of humility because you would have worked hard for it. And that means that you respect the journey. So for me, in encapsulating the second point is to say, it is not really about the destination, but it's about enjoying the highs and the lows of the journey. So the destination really, even when you've gotten there, you're so entrapped and you're so elated by the sad moments where you don't know how you're going to pay staff members. And just before midnight, money comes in and you then start to make a plan. Then the third thing for me really is there is no, and I think we've all heard this, there is no best time to start. So start where you are. But most importantly, when you start, don't undermine yourself. Because don't undermine yourself. Put yourself out there. Put yourself into the abyss. There's this mindset and concept that we have that we think we won't start up until it's perfect. There's no such thing as a perfect product. One of the largest cell phone manufacturers in the world started off as a puzzle shop in their country. Right. So you can then allow yourself to start and you'll iterate along the way. The fourth thing is you are definitely a small business, but the business is small, but the founder is not. You always remember that, whenever you call yourself small, separate yourself from the small, and the small is only the resource limitations, not the founder's limitations, so that you don't get into rooms and you're invited to pitch and talk about your business and suddenly you can't pitch yourself at the level of all the other blue chip CEOs that are in the room purely because you've told yourself that you are small. But that small has iterated itself into your mindset as the founder. The founder should never ever be small. Small should only be limited to the business that you're in, so that when you finally get an email or an opportunity that says, we now would love for you to expand nationwide, you are not caught and awestruck by that opportunity or that moment because you limited your mindset to only working that small business. So I always say to business owners, yes, work with those two computers, but then present yourself as someone who's got 100 and then do the research around other people who've got the 100. So when the opportunity comes, you don't need to ramp up your processes to take on that opportunity by yourself. You've built a network of people who can then take it on with you as you then grow that business.
I love that. I cannot add or subtract. I mean, that's very impeccable. I think when I think about it, I love to start with what you have, because a lot of people say, I do not have enough. So I'm going to just start when I have enough. And I think that time might just never come. And also I think one thing I love that you mentioned throughout this conversation is your background is not a limitation, So you should be able to use your background as a way of growth. Let it motivate you to identify gaps as well, because like for you, how you grew up, I think determined how you view as well townships. But some people try to not face their past, so they'd rather stay away from the townships because that's their past. But I love the fact that your background for you helped you to determine and to see the gaps, in the market, and you're doing quite a great job. I mean, there's a lot of things we could still speak about. I think we're going to need you for part 2.
I'd love that. Because
we didn't get to cover some of the things, but thank you very much for showing up. And I really love the work that you're doing. Reading on the type of work you do is it's mind-blowing, Thank you so much. So thank you so much for showing up. And just before we close, what does living in fullness mean to you?
Living in fullness to me means being present in the moment, but you can't be present in the moment if you don't get things done.
Right.
No one is going to take the remote of your life and change the channel. You need to get up and actually physically do it for yourself. It's in knowing that, life doesn't serve us things on silver platters. We work for those silver platters to finally be automated and serve us. So it's important for you to show up, deliver, over-deliver, and get things done, and understand that talk is cheap, numbers don't lie. The one thing that will segment you from everybody else in the market is the ability to get things done.
Absolutely. Thank you, Bulelani.
Thank you so much.
And thank you to our guests for joining us. Please do not forget to share, like, and comment. And do follow Bulelani on all the social platforms he's on. I'll put them in the description box. We're looking forward to hearing from you. I know you've learned a lot, just as I have. And I know you probably still have a lot of questions. Please do put them in the comment section and we will make sure he's back for part 2. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you.